You got Mac and Mac here on Birds 365, and we've got Paul Domowitch ready to step in and talk football in the next 25, 30 minutes or so. Damo, the acquisition of Saquon Barkley. Is he the best running back the Philadelphia Eagles have ever had? Because I've heard that from some people. The most talented running back in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles. Yay or nay?
At this point in his career, nay.
It's about talent, though, Tomo. And now with Devin White at linebacker, we got these athletic freaks at running back here in Philadelphia and linebacker. Now Saquon's career has been much steadier than Devin White. Are you enamored by the talent level of each one, or you think it's all about just pedigree and people keep defaulting the pedigree? And this league moves quickly. I'm amazed everybody goes back to 2018 and 2020. Well, in 2018, he did this. That might as well be the Middle Ages when you talk about the NFL.
Yeah. You look at their signings and Howie's done a very good job this offseason. But, you look at all these guys and free agent. You don't win Super Bowls in March. Is Bryce Huff a one-year wonder, or is he legit? How much does Barkley have left? Can he stay healthy? Devin White benched last year. He's on a one-year contract. Howie's had a lot of luck with these kind of guys who want to prove themselves and get a big contract. Is that what they're going to get from White? So there are questions on every one of these guys. But right now it looks like it's been a good March for Howie.
Has been, and they got a couple of, I'd call them depth guys along the offensive line. Jason Kelsey's going to be tough to be replaced. We had a chance to talk to you last week about Jason and what he brought to the team, his leadership or whatever. With the Eagles adding players positionally, they haven't jumped into the offensive line yet with a guy who you could say, all right, he's going to step in and start. Does that surprise you? Because Howie usually puts so heavy an emphasis on the trenches.
Well, we still have a draft to go here yet, Jody. So, there's some positions I expect them to address there. Cornerback, obviously, offensive line also. Because we don't, right now, can Tyler Steen play right guard? Is he a legit replacement if they move Cam Jurgens over? That's a question that still needs to be answered. We don't even know if Cam Jurgens is a legit center to replace Jason. He did a good job at right guard. Can he make the transition? So, there are a lot of questions there, but I expect them to draft an offensive lineman fairly early, depending on what's available. You saw, I think I saw some of their top 30 visits revealed yesterday or the day before. A lot of them are offensive linemen. The kid from Oklahoma, some others. So it's going to be something they address early on.
They did bring in Matt Hennessy, who's interesting because he's a former third-round pick. Again, we talk about premium picks that haven't lived up to expectations, but in his case, it's been injury-related. He seemed to be on an upward trajectory a couple years ago before the injuries. He's got some versatility. He can play center. He can play guard. Is that an indication to you? Because I've heard a couple people, and I think it's crazy, and I want your thoughts on this, Damo, that don't shut the door on Landon Dickerson playing center. I'm like, hey, come on. They just made him the highest paid guard in history because of his successful play at guard. They're not thinking about moving Lando back to center. You think that door's even slightly ajar?
In my mind, I think that would be like a last resort if the center position, if Cam Jurgens, suffers an Achilles in training camp and they can't find anybody else to move in there. My feeling is that Stoutland loves his left side right now. He's got Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata who can crush anyone. They were underused last year, for whatever reason. I don't think that'll happen with Kellen Moore. So I think it would take a lot to make Stoutland want to move Landon Dickerson out of that left guard spot.
Damo, do you know anyone who knows someone who knows someone who knows Kellen Moore that you've been able to get a question through to? Because we still haven't heard from Kellen Moore. When did the Eagles name as their offensive coordinator? And we all sit here and speculate on what's going to happen. And the guy who's actually going to be calling plays hasn't officially been introduced there in Philadelphia. So I'm just wondering if you've got any third-hand source information on what Kellen Moore is going to do this year.
No, I mean, this is stupid. It's really stupid. 90% of the teams, when they hire new coordinators, introduce them to the media fairly soon after they're hired, or at the combine or somewhere where they can have a quick back and forth with reports.
Like yesterday with Saquon Barkley being there answering questions. Kellen Moore was probably sitting upstairs in an office listening to what Saquon had to say. But God forbid he come down and actually talk to the media who could then relay the information to Eagle fans.
Well,
I don't know who's pulling the strings in that organization.
I think Damo. I think
it's stupid. I mean,
it is stupid. To that person who shall remain nameless, it is stupid. These are veteran guys. Last year I gave that certain person a little bit of rope, and I said, well, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. They hired guys late. It's young coordinators. This time, Vic's been around since 1943. Kellen Moore is a veteran coordinator. They know how to handle this stuff. It's stupid. Yes, that's a perfect explanation. Why? I
mean, take Vic, for instance. I mean, first time I talked to Vic was 1984.
I know.
You got his cell phone number, and they won't make him available to the media. I mean, it's just kind of, it's just an idiotic. I mean, you remember Nick his first year? I forget. There was some inconsequential thing he didn't want to tell the media about because he thought they would have an advantage.
Competitive advantage. Nick plays that card a lot.
Yeah, he does. He does play that card. But I that probably is the card they're playing with because Nick is still here. Yeah, I mean, he believes other coaches are lazy and that they don't use every avenue available. But yet you got 1984, you said, Damo. So what do we got? 40 years of film on Vic Fangio. We got 6 or 7 on Kellen Moore. I mean, everybody's got if you got $99 of disposable income, you can go learn about Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore. Watch any game they've coordinated. It's unbelievable.
That concerns me from the standpoint of if they think they're fooling other teams this way, are they not looking at film of
maybe self-scout. Yeah, maybe that. Maybe that'll be helpful. So the top 3, I gave this question to Andrew Jacek, our first guest. I'll give it to you. As far as the big 3, I guess we'll call them. So Saquon, Bryce Huff, CJ Gardner-Johnson, who is supposed to talk today. That'll be interesting if that comes off. Impactful, most impactful from top to bottom, those 3. Who do you think's more important in the group? They're all important, but just put them in order.
Well, I mean, Huff's to be determined because we don't know if he's going to be on the roster with Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick. If they're back, if neither one is traded, it lessens the need for Huff to play as many.
Well, I'll say this, Damo, they ain't paying him $17 million to be a third down situational edge rusher.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be on the field. So
he is, but I mean, it's all about sacks. I mean, hell, we don't. He's never been asked to set the edge. So I mean, there are things that he still has to prove, no matter how much money he's making. But I mean, he's an excellent pass rusher, and I mean, you look at everybody they've brought in defensively. Devin White. I mean, he's an excellent. one of his strong points is he's a excellent, one of the better blitzing linebackers. Even the kid they signed from New Orleans, the linebacker, his strength is he can play edge rusher. So it's I mean, they want to get back to 50, 60 sacks, and they're bringing in as many guys that can help them with that as possible, which is why I'm really I just can't. I mean, maybe they let Reddick and Sweat go. I mean, I'm almost certain at least one will be back, and probably both, but who knows? Barkley. I think as they reset their defense here, they're thinking, well, we still have to be a strong offense, and which is one of the reasons they were willing to overspend a little bit on Barkley. He gives them a guy who's going to. I mean, we can talk about him as a rusher, but this is a guy that caught 91 passes in his rookie year, averaged like almost 9 yards a catch his second year. He's an excellent pass blocker. Things that are going to help their passing game as well as the run game. I've been meaning to check what his rush on first down, his yards per carry on rush on first down were compared to DeAndre last year. But, so, I mean, he's going to help their offense. He's going to help Jalen. I think right now offensively, everything is geared towards getting Jalen back on track, both mentally and physically.
And it should be, by the way. It should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that way they feel, even if their defense is coming back slow as they rebuild, if they have an offense that can score points, it'll keep them in games. It'll be a lot like 2022 where they outscore teams in the first half and make them play catch up in the second half, where they can just pin their ears back and rush the passer.
All right, Damo, no, the answer it lies somewhere in the middle, but I'm going to ask you to pick one of two different ends. Yesterday, Jack Stoll signed a one-year contract with the New York Giants. Would you say it's more like Jack who? Or is it more like, how the hell did the Eagles let Jack Stoll get away to the Giants? I get it. The answer is somewhere in the middle. Which is it closer to? Shame on the Eagles for letting it happen, or Jack Stoll? Best of luck. Good to know you. See you later. Bye.
Well, I mean, they re-signed Albert O. They obviously think he has potential. They got Grant Calcaterra. Jack Stoll was he was an okay blocker and he was an okay pass catcher. Didn't do either one exceptionally well. He was never going to be a guy that made a difference in a game. He was just a solid guy, solid number 2 tight end. I think they want more out of that position, particularly if something happens to Goddard. I would go with the second. I don't think it was a big loss.
Let's talk tampering, Damo, because this league and 32 teams tamper. Wink, wink. But it's got to be done in a way. It's like there's honor among thieves sometimes, and there's unwritten rules, and you have to do things a certain way. And if you go outside the realm, you get dinged for it by the NFL. And one of those rules is you cannot contact players during the legal negotiation period. Now, James Franklin went and talked out a turn, and all of a sudden, Mike Florio, who evidently Jody tells me has something against Howie Roseman. I don't know if that's the case, if it isn't the case, but the NFL took notice and they're looking into the Eagles and tampering. Now, I heard something interesting. I said, they'll just say James misspoke, and that's essentially what Saquon said yesterday. And that'll be that. And I still think that's probably the case. But I was made aware yesterday by a couple people that some people in the NFL are pissed off at the Eagles because they complain when this happens to them. Jonathan Gannon, Jeremy Maclin back in the day. And they're being a little brazen about it recently, whether it's Saquon, Vic Fangio was brought up to me, leaving Miami. Could it be a compilation penalty? And the NFL saying, yo, guys, tone it down. You know the unwritten rules. You think the Eagles are going to get dinged?
I don't think so, John, only because there's no I mean, along with not being able to beat Ohio State and Michigan, also
Poor James Franklin taking shrapnel.
he also can't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
But still, it's third hand. It's or second hand.
Yeah.
And he's saying that this is, he claims that's what Barkley said to him.
Yeah.
Barkley's going to deny it. So they
already did.
There's no direct proof. And this is kind of, I think the league, and I do think that they're a little pissed off at the Eagles. I mean, we saw that with the Dom penalty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that they would like to put them in their place, but you've got to have a little bit more proof. And also, I don't think they care. I mean, they've stretched,
that's what I said.
Tampering back to, to giving them 3 days, which is kind of stupid because, I mean, you go those 3 days and all you see is NFL Network and ESPN announcing signings, which are signings, but there's no signature on the contracts. Yeah. So to penalize them for, supposedly saying something to the player rather than the agent is a really dumb idea. So I'd be surprised if they get penalized.
Yeah, my memory is faltering here, so I'm going to ask you guys to help me. When did they put that in place that you couldn't talk to a player? Because I remember for years, guys would go on free agency tours that they would go from city to city, and who could show them the most love, and the old phrase of don't you dare let him get out of town. Once he gets into town, don't let him get out of town. When did it become during legal tampering? God forbid you talk to someone who's actually going to play football.
Well, you can talk to players on Wednesday when the new league year starts. Right. It's just that board, it's like a 54-hour window or whatever.
Yeah, that's when those tours you were talking about, Jody, were after the start of the free agency signing period.
Yeah. So the legal tampering thing was, it has become bigger. You're right, Dom, because I watched hours of the NFL Network on Monday and Tuesday because there was a new signing every 20 minutes. Somebody else said the guys are on the air with their phones and sending tweets while broadcasting on television. You would think the television is more important, but the guy, hold on, I've got to tweet this first, and then he'll make an announcement on the air, which I think
that is funny, by the way. I saw Rappaport do that. Rappaport's like, oh, hold on, I got to tweet. I'm like, what do you mean, hold on? Yeah, you're on national television.
You guys correct me, but I think the legal tampering period's been in effect, what, about 5 years?
Yeah, it all runs together. But
whenever that started, that's when no talking to a player.
And by the way, like last year was a perfect example. You could only talk with agents. So the players that represent themselves, you can't talk to them during the negotiation period.
No, you can. There's if you don't have an agent of record, you are allowed to talk during the legal tampering.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, because you're essentially the player's the agent in that.
I thought Lamar couldn't talk to teams. No, but all right,
he could have. Yeah. All right. No, what's the percentage? Less than 1% of the players who actually represent themselves. Yeah. So we're talking about couple of guys throughout the whole NFL. But yeah, I'm 99% sure they're allowed to talk.
Maybe I misread that. I thought even those guys you couldn't talk to until the start of the new league year. But it's so small a number, it's not really relevant. But I got a lot of Eagles fans down who said DeAndre Swift signed 4 minutes after the window opened. How can they get that done in 4 minutes? Well, yeah, they can't. But nobody cares. Nobody's accusing the Bears of doing anything because they did it the right way. Everybody tampers, but you got to do it the right way. You got it. The unwritten rules. It's like the unwritten rules of baseball. There's a bunch of things you don't do. And the Eagles seem to be getting more brazen with those things. They really are. They're getting a little brazen.
Well, you got an owner that's been in the league since '94, so he obviously is feeling his oats. He's been, won a Super Bowl, been to a Super Bowl over the last 6 years. You got Howie, who's, Howie's had a chip on his shoulder since he became general manager because people wouldn't consider him a football guy.
Yeah.
I think he likes to kind of, give it to smack people in the back of the head when he gets a chance. So, it's their ideal circumstances for doing some stuff like that.
All right, so the Eagles have made the moves that they've made, Damo. I still think they need another cornerback. And I thought it was telltale the fact that when Schefter reported that CJGJ was signing with the Eagles, he reported it as safety slash
nickel
corner. They haven't really replaced Maddox yet. And you can't get everything done in free agency. That's why you have the draft. Draft is going to give you players as well. Do you think they've got a defensive backfield move in them yet? Justin Simmons still sitting out there. Do you think there's one more big free agent move for Howie Roseman other than trying to upgrade in the margins?
Could be, but I think what you're going to see is they're approaching the draft as when they're going to address the cornerback position. They got three picks in the first 2 rounds right now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I would not be surprised if 2 of those picks are on cornerbacks.
Ooh.
I mean, I think they want young corners. I don't know what they think right now of Eli Ricks and
Kelly Ringo. I like Kelly Ringo.
I mean, one of them might pan out, but I mean, I think they want to go get themselves 2 good first and second day cornerbacks that they, assuming they're guys that they like. This is a good cornerback draft, and I don't know how much Slay has left. I don't think it's much. Certainly, James Bradbury is going to be, released post June 1. So I mean, it's a position they've got to upgrade. I mean, it's possible they could add one in free agency, but I think they're looking at the draft is where they turn.
I admit, and I might be on an island here. I would love to see James Bradbury in this defense, in this Big Fangio defense. I think he'll use him correctly. I think he'll be a strict zone corner. I think he's phenomenal at it. Last year, they were moving him all around. They're forcing him to be out of position. He's in the slot. He's playing left corner when Slay's out. He's moving. They got him in press coverage at times, which was weird considering the deep. Vic is going to have him cover 2, cover 4, cover 6, cover 8. Very rarely, for his speed, his lack of speed can hurt you. The guy's so smart. I'd love to see it, but he'll probably get cut. They'll probably draft a corner and they'll cut him at that point, as you mentioned, post June 1st. But I think he'd have a bounce back season. I really do. I might be the only one, but this is the perfect defensive coordinator for James Bradbury. That's what I think.
You could be right. I just, he was so bad last year.
That's true.
And I think they just need to turn the corner and get younger at corner. So that's why, I think that, and this is the draft to do it because it's so deep in corners. So that's why I think that's the way they're going to go.
And they need to. No, they've got time. They've got the whole lead up to the draft before.
By the way, we have a draft trade already. The Minnesota Vikings have acquired the Houston Texans first-round pick, number 23 overall, for a package that includes second-rounders this year and next. Boy, that indicates to me that Minnesota now has 11 and 23. They're going up to get a quarterback. So that's probably what that's about. But yeah, already starting. That just happened. Draft trade already.
Yeah. You package them, you might have a chance at Drake May or Jaden Daniels. Probably not, but
with them, I think it's Drake May or JJ McCarthy because they're a strict Shanahan Kubiak play action offense. Yeah, I would think that.
All right, anyway. Dom, I asked this question of Andrew when we had him on earlier. Crystal ball time, big guy. The Philadelphia Eagles backup quarterback in 2024 is going to be who?
To be determined. I think he's still out there somewhere.
That's not that. You shine up that crystal ball. Wipe it off. I asked you to actually come up with a name here, buddy. I could have gone TBD. I need you to get on the
give him Easton Stick. Yeah, hint. You'll get Jody.
No, anybody but second Easton Stick. Anybody but Easton Stick, I will accept.
Justin Fields, how's that?
Yeah, that's not.
I'm all right with that.
But go ahead, Jody.
You don't think that's any problem for Jalen Hurts? You don't think, oh my God, they brought in another starting quarterback, that the kid will melt under that kind of scrutiny? You
No,
don't think that?
no,
Yeah, do you?
I don't. I mean, obviously, I mean when they brought in Jalen, drafted Jalen, and Carson was here. You know, I mean, Jalen was at the time was going to be was considered probably a bet. They were going to use him as the backup, a gimmick guy, and if some
that was great.
person would be available.
Yeah.
Carson,
Remember when they were going to have two quarterbacks on the field at the same time, Damo?
yeah,
Remember
yeah.
that?
And
Yeah, that
Carson
was fun.
completely went. You know, his mind was blown the day
Yeah.
as soon as they drafted him. I don't
Yeah.
think that would happen with Jalen. I don't know Justin Fields very well. I don't know what his approach would be coming here, but he's in no position to, you know.
And now Jody brought up an interesting point earlier, and I know his feeling. Zach Wilson. Now, Damo, you know, back in the what draft was that? 2021, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
The Eagles really liked Zach Wilson as a player. They love Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
What about Zach? You got to give up probably 7th round pick, maybe gets him.
Oh yeah. You'd be paying nothing for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. They liked him. You know, they usually, when they like a guy, they like him for a long time.
Yeah.
No matter how his career goes.
They still like Saquon. 2018. Saquon. 2021. Why not?
I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah, that was. Here's the one nice thing I'll say about Zach Wilson. He's better than Easton Stick. That's all I will say. That's as good as I'm going to go for Zach Wilson.
But a backup quarterback, our buddy Rob Motti reported the Eagles offered Joe Flacco a contract. So does that tell you that, hey, they're getting a veteran? No matter what, it's not going to be Tanner McKay. They're getting a veteran.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they don't want to go into they don't want to have something happen to Jalen in a year when they still think they can make the playoffs and have to go with a kid that has has he thrown any passes last year?
No.
Maybe a couple, whatever.
No, he wasn't even active last year, but looked good in the preseason. So that would be a little nervy. I'd give Howie credit for it if he really loves Tanner McKee as much as he does. So I asked you if they'll have any other free agent signings. If not, they're turning their attention to the draft going forward. They made changes with the offensive and defensive coordinator this year, and how much they had to say with the player acquisition. How much do you think that Fangio and the mysterious Kellen Moore actually have had as far as say goes in free agency? How much do you think they'll have going forward toward the draft?
I think they both had input. I think probably Vic more than Kellen because of his experience and the fact that the defense is the one that needs to be overhauled. Yeah. And if you're going to overhaul a defense, you damn well better get pieces that can fit into Vic's scheme. Yep. Offensively, it hasn't, I mean, offensive line are going to be strictly the domain of Jeff Stoutland. The Barkley thing, I'm sure Kellen Moore had input into. But that's, he probably had a lot less than Vic.
Yeah. At P Damo, make sure you follow Paul on X/Twitter. Read him at the 33rd team, JAKIB Sports in season. Devontae Parker and wide receiver 3. I was alarmed. I knew I told Jody this. He was last when Next Gen Stats compiles their separation statistics last season. Well, I found out yesterday he was last for the past 4 seasons that they've been compiling those numbers. He's not their 3rd receiver, is he? This is not the upgrade.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I think they'll draft somebody. There's a couple guys in this draft that I think would be terrific, are going to be terrific slot receivers in this league. You're going to laugh at the one guy. Oklahoma's got a guy, Bob Stoops' son, who I thought was, I think is going to be the next Hunter Renfrow.
Really?
He's born to be.
By the way, Hunter Renfrow just got cut, didn't he? He's still out there, isn't he? Yeah. Hunter Renfrow?
Could be.
I believe so.
Yeah. So I think a guy like that fits more as your slot guy. or your number 3 receiver than Parker, who, like you said, I don't know how much he's got left. And that's another reason why I point to Barkley's ability to catch the ball as far as, how they plan to approach their passing game this year.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be their third wide receiver. I think he's going to be the backup to Smith and to AJ Brett. And when they come off the field, he'll go in, which hopefully is never, because those two guys are that good and they don't get hurt. So have a good time sitting on the bench. Damo, we love bringing you off the bench and bringing you on with us. Thank you for doing it again this week. Love the shirt. We will talk to you again next week, big guy.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Damo.
3013.com here with us on Birds 365. All right. Running a little late on time. John McMullen, Jody McDonald will come back and put a bow on this show.